Hello, my name's Eric and welcome to the Big Man's Outdoors. I'm going to be working on some load development today for these Sierra 95 grain Match King bullets that I got for my 224 Valkyrie. And I'm going to walk through the process. I'll be starting from scratch with these. I haven't shot anything, I've not shot these bullets at all before, and I'll be curious to see how they perform in my upper. This is a 24-inch AR-15 part upper and barrel that I got with a 1-in-7 twist heavy bull barrel on it. So I figured I would walk through the process. The first thing that I need to do today is to figure out how deep I want to set these bullets. And to do that, we're going to measure the base to ogive for this bullet for when it touches the lands. And I have a couple tools that I'm going to be using for this exercise. First of all is a Hornady overall length gauge that I've purchased. I also need my calipers, and attached to my calipers I have a Hornady bullet comparator with the proper insert for the 22 caliber bullet. And what I'm going to be doing is, also I have a modified case. This is one, Hornady sells these, but I just made this one myself. I took a 224 Valkyrie case that I'd already shot. I drilled out the bottom and tapped it, and then I just used a Dremel tool to cut a little groove right here so that the bullet can slide freely in and out of the case. I think I first saw this on Johnny's reloading bench with something he was doing. You don't necessarily need all of these tools, meaning the overall length gauge, but you will need calipers. And you can measure from the base of the case to the tip of the bullet, but it won't be as accurate as measuring to the ogive. So I want to be as precise and accurate as possible, so that's why I've picked up these tools to do it. So the case screws on to the threaded end of this overall length gauge, and like I said, I'll walk through the process. Then what you do is you put the bullet into your modified case so that it slides freely, and then you put this in your chamber and you just kind of push this out gently until the bullet touches the ogive of the bullet touches the lands of the rifle barrel, and then you take a measurement from the base to the ogive of the bullet, and then that is the measurement that you will get for to the lands, and then you can back that off a little bit for whatever you need for your rifle for that bullet to jump. Basically the distance between the ogive and the lands when you fire the bullet. There's a little bit of jump that the bullet will make once it leaves the case, before it starts to hit the ogive hits the rifling of the barrel and then starts to twist coming out the barrel. So I'm going to go ahead and get set up, and I'll walk you through the process. Okay, we are set up here and ready to go. I've got my upper off of my rifle. I have removed the bolt and the charging handle. I have my calipers, and I've got a couple bullets that I've just kind of randomly selected to do these measurements with. I don't like to use the same bullet over and over again. I like to take a couple measurements, one bullet, switch bullets, a couple more measurements, switch bullets, a couple more measurements. Full disclosure here, these readings will be for my particular rifle. All rifles are a little different, so this is more to display the process and to give out exact numbers. If I had a different rifle, if I had two another 224 Valkyrie and I took measurements, I would probably get a little bit different results. So this is more to walk you through my process and show you what I do. So let me move the camera in a little bit closer here, see if we can get some better detail. Okay. Let's go ahead and take our first bullet, and I'm going to insert it into my modified case. Make sure it's in there and can move freely. And then I'm going to take the case, put it in the chamber until it's snug. Apply a little bit of pressure on the back of the comparator so that it stays in the chamber. And then I'm just going to slowly tap the plunger until it doesn't move. I'm not going to ram it really hard, I'm just going to give it a little bit of pressure. Once that happens, I will lock down the plunger and then pull it out. Sometimes the bullet sticks in the lands a little bit, like this one did, so it's when it comes out it's already extended a little bit, so I push that back in to make sure that it's seated against the plunger. Let's go ahead and take my calipers here, make sure they're zeroed, and now I'm going to measure from the base of the bullet using the comparator to the ogive of, the base of the case to the ogive of the bullet, and look at that number, which just seems to be 1.7860. Let's go ahead and write that down. 0.7860. And we will repeat the process. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this a little bit, this comparator. My first measurement, I put it with the locking towards the scope. Now I'm going to keep it out towards me, again pushing the comparator in until it's the case is in the chamber solid, and then just give it a little tap until it stops. So now that it's stopped, I lock the plunger down, move my piece, my case and bullet. Sometimes the bullet will get stuck in the lands, and you'll have to use a cleaning rod to push it back down. So let's go ahead and take this measurement, which again, okay, that one came out to 1.7860. Again, same number. Let's write that down. It's always good when you get the same results over and over. If something went cattywampus, all pear-shaped, and I got a completely different number, I'd be a little skeptical and concerned. So now I'll turn it again, the comparator a little bit so it's a little bit different angle. Go ahead and push the plunger until the bullet hits the lands. Lock down the plunger and remove it. Again, push it back so it's seated against the plunger. And our third and final measurement with this bullet is 1.7860. So, three of the same measurements with the same bullet. So let's go ahead and switch bullets now, get rid of that one. We'll take our second randomly selected bullet as my third one moves in away. Go ahead and release the lock, put the bullet down in so it slides freely. Stick it in the chamber, and let's go ahead and apply pressure, tapping the plunger a little bit till it stops. Lock it down, remove, and measure. Okay, 1.7850. 45. 1.7844540. 45. We'll take 1.7840. Repeat the process. 1.7880. And the third and final time with this bullet. .7870. So that bullet had a fair 7870. That bullet had a fair amount of variance. Not like the other one where I got the same measurements 3 times. So, but it's still 1.78 something, which is really what I'm looking to. Let's go ahead and put our third bullet in. Take 3 measurements. Okay, that one stuck in the chamber. So now we can push it out. .7870. .7840. Third and final time with this bullet. .7865. And now I just want to, for curiosity, measure the overall length, which is 2.36. So that bullet is very long. So, yeah, 2.36, well, there's 2.3, 2.36, 2.359, so 2.36. That is going to have to give me a little bit of pause, and I'll discuss that in a minute. But, so that's the process for measuring the base to ogive that I use to determine my bullet seating depth. So we'll come back and talk about results in a second. I'll get set back up, and like I said, we'll talk about the results and my thoughts on where I'm going to go with this. Alright, so I have finished up my measurements base to ogive, and I did take an overall length, like I said, and with the bullet touching the lands, my overall length was 2.36, which gives me a moment of pause, because the magazine overall length, the largest overall length I can fit in my magazine for the 224 is 2.31. I generally don't like to load over 2.30 overall length. So normally what would happen is my rifle seems to like a jump of 0.02 inches or 2/100ths of an inch. But if I loaded this round just based off of the measurements I took, I would measure base to ogive for seating depth. I'd give it that 2/100ths of an inch jump. I would be looking at 1.76 inches base to ogive, which would give me an overall length of 2.34, which would be 4/100ths too long for the magazine. So I'm going to play around with seating depth, I think, for this round. Probably might just load it to max overall length of 2.30 and see how that shoots. Hopefully I'll be surprised. Generally, for every round that I've hand loaded and shot, if it wasn't at a 2/100ths of an inch jump, it wasn't grouping well. Specifically thinking about the the Hornady 80 grain ELDs I had. I had the same kind of thing where the optimal, what I consider optimal base to ogive length, gave me an overall length that was too long for my magazine. So I'm going to have to think about this, give it some, noodle it around a little bit. I did want to compare the 90 grain bullet and the 95 grain bullet as far as bullet profile, just to see how different they were. And there is a little bit of difference there. I don't know if you can see that well or not, but there is the bullet profiles. I'm not doing a good job of holding that up, but there's a fair amount of difference in 5 grains between the two bullets. So I'll be really interested to see how this 95 grain shoots out of my rifle. I think seating depth is going to be the key. That's what it's been in everything I've tried to do. So I'm definitely going to have to give it some thought. The next step that I'm going to be working on will be looking at my powders and coming up with a powder charge. I'm thinking about maybe doing a Satterley test on this particular round, and I'll explain that more if I decide to do that whenever I get to the selecting the powder charges for it section of this video series. So I guess at this point we'll kind of wrap this up. Again, if reloadersnetwork.com, if you ever get a chance to check that out, go ahead. Like I always say, there's a lot of decent people there with a lot of good information. That's where I've learned a lot of things, by hanging out there. So I appreciate you watching. Until next time, this is a Big Man's Outdoors. Have fun outside.